Hello and good morning, good afternoon, good evening for whenever you are watching this, but good morning to those who are watching live. My name is Kaylee Phelps and I am excited to welcome you to the celebration space where today we are talking about, there we go. I was a little crooked, but I am so excited to talk to you today about rethinking the classic run of show template. And just to start out, I want to explain what a run of show is to those who maybe haven't worked in the events industry or worked behind the scenes on an event, or maybe you've heard it called by another name like a Q to Q or an event timeline, a schedule of events, different things, all different names, all basically run of show they're all the same thing. Run of shows typically look like a grid and can be used in TV productions as well as things like AV or catering at an event, where it's basically queuing you up to know what's coming next, who's going to be doing what music will be played, what the lights will look like, all of those good things. And even so far as beyond that, it can also be, okay, who's going to be stationed where, when will we open the doors, how will we notify guests, what's our communication strategy, how are we going to do X, Y, and Z. So really the run of show is talking about your ideal event, exactly what you want it to look like, and how it's going to go down, who's going to be doing what things. So that's what a run of show is. It looks a little bit different depending on where you are in terms of being the venue, the vendor, X, Y, and Z, but if you are running an event or in charge of an event, it's really going to be all-encompassing. So I want to talk about, I'm working on a run of show template that I'm really excited about, that I'm excited to provide for my potential clients, current clients, and any friends and family who are running any kind of event from small scale to large scale, and so that they know exactly how to get some things laid out and also just feel really confident in what's going to happen throughout their day, throughout their event. So that is the general layout, and something that I really wanted to talk about is rethinking the run of show for two reasons, because I think a lot of people think when they're coordinating an event about the really big things, about the lights, the music, the food, and just kind of the general flow, which that's another, show flow is another name for a run of show as well. But beyond that, all of those things really line up for the guest experience, but they aren't proposed from the guest experience. So it's all about what you're doing behind the scenes to get them set up for those things. And then the execution, or what it feels like on the guest end, sometimes comes a little bit secondary, which is counterintuitive to what you want an event to be. So rethinking it from the guest perspective, and then also rethinking it from a virtual standpoint, and also from looking at your event from when someone receives the invitation, when it's a virtual or physical invitation, to when they walk out the door, or when they receive a follow-up email, or the full all-encompassing experience of what they are, how they are interpreting your event in that whole everything from very beginning to very end, not just what's happening on site, which is typically what a run of show will encompass. So really, I wanted to do this because I think that a lot of people aren't thinking about their events or their attendees in virtual events especially. So I think that we're all being inundated during the global health crisis with a ton of notifications and a ton of virtual invitations to be able to join different things. But how are you going to differentiate your event from the 80 other events happening that evening? Maybe it's because you are providing educational services. Maybe it's because someone's getting certified. Maybe it's because you're bringing together a community. Maybe you're doing all of these different things. But once I get that invitation, how does it go on my calendar? How am I reminded of it? What emails maybe am I receiving beforehand? How do I know how to prepare for it? And then once I have logged on and I'm looking at your screen, what is the pacing? So what I mean by pacing, I think that's something important for on-site events, but also virtual events especially, because we're all receiving a lot of burnout from looking at screens from long amounts of time. So I've been seeing some virtual conferences that are literally 8 or 9 hours long, which is wonderful. You're learning a lot. You're getting a lot of experiences. A lot of them factor in time for lunch, factor in time for bathroom breaks. But I think a lot of it is trying to pack in an in-person experience in a virtual setting. And I think part of what we need to accept is that we're not in person. You are not getting the same experience. It is not the same thing. So we need to think about, if I'm sitting in my house, maybe I have pets, maybe I have kids, maybe I have all of these different things, and am I truly going to be tuned in to what you are presenting to me for 8 or 9 hours? Probably not. So I think looking at your demographics, looking at what's going on in their lives, factoring in pacing based on what you want people to get out of the most. So people knowing that people are going to log on and probably be engaged for, you know, the very beginning of your event, and any kind of like call to action or anything that you might really need engagement on, looking to move that up and front stacking it, because people get tired and people get exhausted and people will start logging off towards the later parts of your event. So just looking at statistics, looking at your goals and your audience, as I've mentioned in just about every event focused video from the celebration space, really looking at what that experience looks like. And if you are hosting an in-person event, I also think there are a couple of things that I always crack up about, because people always forget some of the basics. So one of the things that I've seen time and time again forgotten about is parking. So when your attendees get there, I have been asked a million times, normally I'm wearing black, normally I'm running the event to some capacity, and people run up to me and they're like, hey, what do I do about parking? And when I was a contractor at a lot of events, and if I wasn't in direct contact with the venue, then it would be, oh, you know what, let's take care of that at the end of the evening. I'll find out if it's validated and I'll have them make an announcement. Or it may be just paid parking. I will find out for you and get that announced, or make sure that you have that information in some capacity. And from there, normally there was a stack of, parking validations that were, tucked back in an office somewhere, or someone never thought about asking about parking validation, so then they asked the venue about it, and then there's a stack of validations. Or all of a sudden there's a huge line at the valet because they aren't staffed enough for the number of people, or there's a lot of people walking and causing a holdup of traffic because there's self-parking across the street. Any number of different things can happen. And when you think about your run of show and your experience with your guests from beginning to end of when they receive notification that they're going to the event to when they receive a thank you note or a thank you email, these are all things that if you factor it in, not only from your perspective being on the back end, but factoring it in from their perspective. Okay, I received the invitation. I hear from you a week later. I also hear from you the night before, so I know what to expect. I know where I'm parking. I know where I'm walking in. I know my schedule of events. I know what's happening. I know when maybe, I'm getting exhausted at this point, but then there's an announcement I get a bathroom break, or there's going to be refreshments at this time. Different things like that. Normally, event invitations have a generalized schedule of events, but just really thinking about it from a guest perspective and being really intuitive with the events that you go to and what information maybe you wish you had when you were sitting in the seat of the guest rather than sitting in the seat of the person behind the scenes, factoring in all of the different elements that make an event a success, but also always keeping in mind our audience first and foremost. So that is my tip of the day, really looking at that run of show template and maybe having one for everything, one for your AV, one for your catering, and one just for your guest experience, just to know, okay, if I'm walking through this as a guest, this is exactly what I'm going to experience at what times, unless, of course, timing gets off, things happen, something goes wrong at every single event. It's really not about what goes wrong. It's about being prepared for it and knowing that you can handle it no matter what goes wrong and just taking it as it comes. So that is all I have for you today. I hope that this is helpful. That run of show template is coming soon, which I think will be really helpful for both in-person and online experiences. And until next time, enjoy celebrating today.